Are you sick of making mistakes when you knit off a graph pattern? Then this method I came up with will be perfect for you. The secret to reading a graph without error is all in the setup, and I'm going to show you how to do it. It's based off the way I saw my grandma read graph patterns, where she used a piece of paper and some paper clips to block out completed rows. And I know that they make special little graph readers that do the same thing. They kind of look like a tablet holder. You slip it in, and then they even have like a ruler to block things off. However, if you have ADD like I do, leaving all this mess up here, it's just not going to work. It's super overwhelming, so I need to block that out too. So the first step is in marking up your graph. I have a pretend one here that I made. It's not for anything real, just this tutorial, but it mimics some of the things that you might see in a real graph. So normally I'd use a pencil, but I'm going to use a pen so you can see better. So the first thing I do is I number my rows. And if you're knitting in the round, you're going to put all your numbers on the right side. For a flat graph, you want to work back and forth. So starting at the bottom, you're going to label the first row on the right as 1, or do this according to your pattern so that your rows match up with any written instructions, and put the number just outside of the first square. Then I go up the right side and label every odd row. You don't have to put the even rows in because we're going to come over to the other side and do that. And what this does is help you remember which side to read from. Because when I was knitting off graphs without this method, I would accidentally knit from the wrong direction all the time, because when you're knitting flat, you have to go this way for one row, this way for the other. You switch which way you're reading from. This, coupled with our final step, is going to make things much easier. Next, mark if there are any decreases or increases in your pattern. These are shown by using these steps right here. So I make an X whenever I see there is a decrease. And if your pattern has an increase, you could put an O there. And maybe you're thinking that you can see these steps, so why make it an X? Well, that's going to become clear later on. The next step, we will need some supplies. You're going to need a cutting mat, an X-Acto knife, a pencil, a blank sheet of paper the same size as your pattern, and some paper clips. So we want to take our blank sheet of paper and match it up with whichever row on your pattern is the longest. And I want the middle of the paper. So don't match it up end to end. Try to get the middle of the paper close to that row. And then secure it in place with your paper clips. Grab a pencil and take your papers to a window and hold them against the glass. Now, using your pencil, trace around the longest row of your pattern, making sure to add 1 square extra to the width of the row on each side. This way you can see the numbers you've written next to the rows on your graph. Now, using our cutting mat and knife, we're going to cut a window into the marking we just made. And this is what we're going to use in order to focus on each row that we're knitting. Sometimes I will use a ruler to make this nice and straight, but I'm going to chance it. And if your pattern has markings like these that indicate something like color, write them on this outside paper so you don't have to keep referring to your pattern. Then align your window with your first row and secure it with the paper clips. Now you can see just the row you're working with and which direction to start knitting in. And when you need to move to the next row, you just gently scoot it up. And again, here we know we have to start with row 2 from the left side. And there you go, no more mistakes.